Alright, today we're going to be looking at Camtasia. We're going to only be looking at a glimpse of Camtasia at first, and I want to show you some tips for Camtasia. Camtasia is a screen capturing program. If I train people in software, Camtasia is where I go. Alright, now if you can imagine a screen capturing program, how do you capture a screen capturing program? It's like looking in the mirror with a video camera. Okay, so it's really hard. So what I have is another computer hooked up in my lab, and we're going to be looking at it using Camtasia while I'm capturing with Camtasia on this computer. How cool is that, right? Okay, some tips if you're going to end up doing something like that ever in your life is you have to match the resolution. So on your computer it would be 1024 stretched, and on the screen capturing computer it's 1024 stretched. If you match the two resolutions, good to go. That's just a tip if anybody ever tries to do this insanity. Well, let's go into Camtasia real quick, and I just have a few things, and then we can always cover Camtasia as a program in itself, but right now it's gathering up your assets. We've looked at audio equipment, we've looked at video equipment, now we're looking at software. What do you need to get started? There's a couple things you got to remember about capturing video, and that's the screen resolution. Okay, one thing you want to portray is very clear buttons that everybody can read. So the bad thing about that is you're going to end up capturing at a very low resolution. In this case, you're going to be capturing, in most cases, I always capture at 1024 by 768. And in some cases, I up that resolution if I'm capturing video. Okay, so what I mean about video is what you've seen earlier with video, me with a camera aiming it somewhere. So whenever you're capturing software concepts, 1024 by 768 really works good. Now, what about audio? Again, it all depends what you're doing. When you hit Camtasia, you're going to come up with this screen, and it's going to ask you what kind of audio you have, what kind of camera do you have. I don't really use this camera very often unless I want super clarity. The problem with it is I can't see a real-time preview of it. So we're going to get into concepts of how do you do that, and I got a program called Camtwist that I use for that. Under preferences, I always use full motion 30 frames per second, and I always capture to my main hard drive. I always capture with a scale percentage of 100%. And I'm just going to capture a little bit here because I also want to show you output. Okay, yada yada yada, this is a screencast. Of course, this computer's not even in my lab, so I'm talking to myself. So I'm going to hit stop recording. And it's going to launch this. There's not going to be any audio because there's nobody in that room. Now, this right here is so big because of the fact that I just captured 1024 by 768. It will not display here as what I need it to be. So right here is the actual all of the video. When I export it out, it will work correctly. Some things I want to show you is my export. I think that's by far the most baffling thing ever, is what you export as. Okay, so if I share, the nice thing about Camtasia right now is the fact that it ports right to iTunes. I mean, it ports right to iTunes, exports it right up there, and then you could just change the name. But the problem with that is you never get an archival version of your work. So what I want to do is share with you my export. So I use advanced export. And for archival reasons, I use, I'll just call it movie example 1 and go to options. Under settings, I always use this: animation, current frames per second, and then frames every one, or keyframes every 100 frames. Okay. Now, you always want to do this if you're shooting video along with shooting the screen. If you're just shooting the screen, 10 frames per second works really good. Okay. I'm going to use current though. Now, you can pump it up to millions plus colors. That really works. And if you want to go insane, you can go best. But I'm going to tell you that it's going to be a very big file when you're done. I always use high. On my sound, I always use mp4 4.1. I always go to mono and a rate of 48 Hertz with best. Audio is the most important part in my field, so think about it this way. You're listening to my voice, it can't be annoying. If you're on a PC, I would probably go with mp4 high efficiency. I've always had really good results with that, but I love mp4 4.1. So, and that's why mainly one of the things I do record on a Mac all the time is because I got this format. It's very universal. It translates to a lot of different programs, and nobody ever has to look for the stupid codec. Alright, so those are my settings for my export. Again, you know, this is not too much about editing in Camtasia or using Camtasia as a program. It's mostly what settings I'm using and what it is as a software packet. You're going to need this if you want to be a serious screencaster. There is another product called iShowU HD, which is a clone of Camtasia, just about. It's nice, but it doesn't have an editing suite, so I'm not going to cover it in this series. Alright, enjoy. Next video we'll look at that program I call Camera Twist and see how that works.